Today, we're looking at a turquoise ink by Pelikan, their 4001 Turquoise. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below, but if you've got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. If you'd like, you can follow me over on Instagram as an ink guy. Also, if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews daily, so I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Platinum 3776 with a broad nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take my notes for this video. For the first writing sample, I use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 5 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 11 seconds to dry. Now the extra fine does show some color variation, although we don't get it. The medium shows none, and we get none. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal ghosting for Tomoe River. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 8 seconds to dry. Medium, by far darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 17 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and there is none. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is a little darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Medium, again, by far the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine does show some color variation, although we don't get it. The medium shows none and we got none. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. Put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see here is a very minty, light green at the bottom that pushes its way up, almost hidden with the blue, and then a very bright blue across the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And I think that minty green is showing itself a little bit better. It's moving much slower up the filter paper. And that bright blue still very much there at the top of all this. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, the capital H has a bit of a blowout on the left. The lowercase h has a whole lot of blurriness that starts to occur. It's the blowout in the capital H that makes me say I wouldn't use this in a note-taking situation. Water is completely reactivating. Lifting it, we see the white of the paper coming through. Water is all you need to get this out of your pen. Pen flush does everything that water does, nothing more, but we're not going to need it. And the 1/3 bleach solution that you're not going to need to get this out of your pen completely obliterates it. As far as viscosity or flow, for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Pelikan 4001's Turquoise has a viscosity of 1.67, making this a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now for the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Pelikan 4001's Turquoise has an average dry time of 11 seconds, making this a faster drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Pelikan 4001's Turquoise, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I wanted a nice red, and I chose Diamine's Passion Red. The second writing sample is done on Vinta, Black and Red, and Limon paper. Here we're looking at the Vinta notebook. Hashtag the modern traveler. I don't know. We have minor bleeding with the medium, not coming through, not touching the page. It does lead to very minor ghosting, but it is really good performance for a pocket notebook, not really made for fountain pens. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Medium, by far the darkest tone on the page, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, show no color variation, and we got none, and this performed amazing on this. Black and red notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Medium, by far the darkest on the page, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 5 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both, show no real color variation, and we don't get any. And limon paper. Lots of bleeding, especially with that medium. Lots of ghosting because of it. The extra fine even had a bunch of bleeding spots. Now, none of this is touching the page underneath. Even the extra fine has a fair amount of ghosting, not the worst in the world, but you just can't use the back of the page for this. The 1.1 has a ton of feathering all over it. No spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is quite a bit darker than the stub. It has a bunch of tiny feathering all over it. No spread, halo sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. Medium, quite a bit darker than everything on the page. Lots of feathering, really gross, distracting at times. A lot of spread. That medium's looking more like a broad. Maybe like a German broad. Whew. No halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Don't use this on this paper. No, don't. Scrubby for both, show no color variation. We didn't get any, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Pelikan's 4001 Turquoise? It puts a very pleasant tone down on the page. Now there's no shading that it's going to give, but the tone itself is very cool to look at. It's a cooling tone. It's very nice. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, a drier pen is going to put down a lighter tone, and a wetter pen a much darker tone. For me, I would go with a medium flow, medium nib to really get the best of both worlds from this ink. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.